Remember to subscribe to the Unwanted Opinions podcast anywhere you get them. iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. We're on all these platforms. You can also check us out on YouTube. If you listen to all your content there, we're on it. Check us out there. You can hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Unwanted Opinions with Nick and Jay. You can also email us at unwantedopinionspodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget, you can also, if you're looking for protein, pre-workouts, you can check out fnxfit.com. You can get 15% off of your order if you use our promo code FNXUOP at checkout. So if you're in the need for some protein, like I mentioned, go there, check it out. They've got really good products that get you good results, and you can get a 15% discount. So there's no beating that. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Unwanted Opinions podcast. Jay and I are back here recording actually on a Friday. Jay, it's been a minute since we've recorded on a Friday. We had stuff to do yesterday.
We just like to switch stuff up, man. Yeah. Keep everybody on their toes.
Very flexible, Jay and I, with our schedules. It's nice. We can get on and still doing it remotely. He's at his house. I'm at mine. Still doing that for the time being. Trying to, I guess, stay a little socially distanced, if you will.
Nick's building a new house, so maybe we'll convince him to set up an office and we'll get in there and have our own little studio.
I told you, man. I told you on the plan it says office, but I should have crossed that out and just put podcast room. Yeah. Because that's what it's going to be. Yeah. And my father-in-law had a good idea. Once we close that door, we hit record. There's a little sign out there or like a little red light that says on air like they do in radio stations. So people
that's what we need to do. That'd be badass.
That would be pretty cool. We'll try. Maybe we can try and figure that out.
Maybe I can smooth some of the subcontracts into making that soundproof.
There you go. Yeah. I like it. You will be in charge of. You'll be there, Jay. You'll be putting your 2 cents in, so you better make sure it's good. All right. Anyways, let's get into the meat of this episode. So, if you listened to our last episode, you know we did over/unders, win totals for the AFC East and the AFC West. Tonight we're finishing out the AFC with the South and the North. So we'll get into that in just a minute. Go through every team, and Jay and I'll pick our
over-unders, projections.
You know, basically who we got for division winners and stuff based off of record and whatnot. I know Jay mentioned last time at the end of all this, when we get through the NFC, we'll also do playoff bracket, etc., get to the Super Bowl and shit like that. So stay tuned. But I wanted to talk about Jamal Adams officially requesting a trade. So I believe he's gotten tired of all the noise. There's always rumors that somehow the Jets are going to trade him. He's available in talks. We've been hearing this basically, for 2 years at least, Jay, of him getting mad and venting on social media about being in a trade rumor and thinking that he's not untouchable and the Jets aren't going to give him enough money or whatever it is. So he finally officially just said, trade me. I want to be out of here. I don't want to be in New York anymore. He gave a list of, I believe it was 8 teams. Jay, what are they?
Yeah, you got the 2 Super Bowl participants and the Chiefs and the 49ers. He also had the Ravens, the Eagles, the Texans, the Seahawks. The Cowboys, up until a few hours ago, were the only team on his list that weren't in the playoffs last year. Mm-hmm. And then, as right before we got on, you mentioned that I hadn't seen it yet, that he added the Buccaneers to his potential list of teams.
That was just today, because I think he officially requested that trade yesterday. And I believe the Bucs came on that list today. Obviously, I mean, Jay and I aren't on that hype train of the Buccaneers going to the Super Bowl like everybody else is. I think just because Tom Brady went there, I think you got to remember he's also, I'm not even going to get
40-something years old.
He's going to be 43. Their defense is terrible. Obviously, Jamal Adams would be a huge upgrade to that team. But clearly, I mean, he just wants to go play for a winner. And the Jets, for basically our entire lifetime, we're 26 years old, really haven't won shit.
No, did they make the AFC Championship game a couple times?
Yeah, they did back-to-back years with
Rex Ryan,
and, Mark Sanchez at quarterback. But I mean, we've never seen them go to the Super Bowl. I don't know if they've been. When is the last time they even went to the Super Bowl? Was it
Super Bowl 3?
Was that the only time they've ever been?
I don't know.
I'd have to
I
fact check
truly
that
don't.
because I'm not no Jets fan, but definitely not in our lifetime. They've not been to the Super Bowl. They've been close, just not there. So I mean, they've basically been an irrelevant team. They're definitely
Well,
the lesser
especially since
team
he's been there.
in New York. I mean, the Giants are the bigger brand. They've won 2 Super Bowls in the past, since '07. They've won 2 Super Bowls. I know it's been a while, but they had the star quarterback, a Manning, so that's going to get a lot of publicity. And it just helps if you win, and the Jets haven't won much. But
That's what I was saying. Especially his tenure there, they haven't won jack shit.
no, I mean, what was he, the 5th overall pick?
So, dude, is there an ice cream truck going outside of my house right now?
I'm not sure. There could be.
I hear some tunes all of a sudden just pop up.
Or it's just
Like-
somebody jamming, driving by.
I don't know.
I don't know if they're
Either-
selling ice cream right now, Jay. I don't know if anybody's going up to an ice cream truck. And,
I'm not kidding. I saw one out here the other day. So, yeah, they're
okay.
doing it.
All
I
right.
don't know how they're being corona free about it, but they're doing it.
hey, small businesses got to make their living too.
Agreed.
But, I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, what it comes down to me is he's just being, I think he's being kind of a baby because I think he's been a little bit of a diva and a baby. Basically, he gets mad anytime his name's thrown into a trade rumor. And so he's finally just like, fuck it, you guys want to trade me? Trade me. Who cares? I don't care. I don't want to be here. Whatever. But I'm honestly just tired of hearing about Jamal Adams trade rumors and news because it's feel like it's gone on for 3 years.
Agreed. I do think he's one of the best safeties in the league
Don't
already.
get me wrong. I would love to have him on my team.
See, that's where I don't know. I would like to have his play on the field, but he was going to the Jets when he came into the draft as this big time leader out of LSU, and to me, a leader's not always going on social media and trashing his team, requesting trades, talking down about everything else and making everything public. A leader leads by example. I know there's different ways to do it, but leads by example, does everything behind closed doors. Be a man about it. Go approach the GM and say, hey, are you trying to trade me or not? If you're, I want to stay here. I want to work out my deal and let's make this thing happen. But instead, he goes to Twitter. He goes to all these social media platforms, and I don't like that aspect of it. I think that's a quick way to divide a locker room.
And that's very true. I mean, it is.
And I like, but does his talent outweigh the he put up with on the field?
You know, that's a good question. And I don't know if we will get that answer because it doesn't seem like he faces adversity very well. If he was on a prominent winner, would you hear him as often? Probably not. But the fact that he's losing, he feels the need to speak out and be heard because he's on for I would say probably an irrelevant team at the time because yes, he's a big name, but do you see a lot of teams talk about the Jets on Undisputed or Get Up or First Take? Not really. They mainly what they talk about are his tweets. So would that change if he was on a winner? Okay, but let's move on. Let's move on to these over-unders. Jay, we can start in the South if you want. Man, we'll start with the AFC South, which is Titans, Texans, Colts, Jags. The Texans are the reigning division champ. The Titans also made the playoffs after a late run with Tannehill, and then he got a big deal. Colts are coming in, maybe underachieving. The loss of Andrew Luck. They brought in Phillip Rivers, and the Jaguars are the Jaguars. They've, picked in the top 5. God, seems like almost every year. They're over.
The thing is, they
low,
nailed
Jay.
the talent. It seems like they always nail the talent in the draft, and they just, outside of the 1 year where they should have beaten the Patriots in the playoffs, they haven't really been able to do anything with it.
No, they have not. So where do you want to start? Do you want to start with who?
Let's just go down the list of who was the division winner last year with the Texans.
Okay, let's start with the Texans. Their over-under is at 7.5. All right, Jay, you want to guess? I know we did this last time, and I kind of just went out and spilled the beans before you even allowed you to guess. So where do you think I had the Texans? Over under 7.5?
I think you have them at over, but only at 8 wins.
I actually took the under at 7.
Really?
So just right under. Yes.
Okay, I took the I'm over here fucking up too.
Actually, I don't even know what you said. So
Okay.
I'm gonna guess you took the over at 8.
Nope, I took the over at 9.
Over at 9. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. Tell me why. Because I just don't like this team, really. I don't.
I don't really like the team either, but
I
I
love
just
Deshaun
think
Watson.
Deshaun Watson's too good to have a losing record. Now, if he gets hurt, whole different ball game. But as much as people hate on Bill O'Brien, I do think he consistently wins 9 to 10 games a year.
Mm-hmm.
He's a horrible GM. I'll give you
Maybe
that.
the worst in the league.
But he's not a horrible coach. He's consistently winning these 9, 10, 11 games. And I know Deshaun Watson has a lot to do with it, but Deshaun Watson's damn good. And I just don't see them going 7-9 or maybe 8-8, but I'm going to set their floor at 9-7. And am I a believer in the team? Not really. Really love Deshaun, but I don't think they would do anything if they actually made the playoffs. Hated their draft.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really bring in anybody in free agency that I like too well. Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb, they're both injury-prone wide receivers.
And small.
Yeah, they lost quite a
Arguably
bit.
top 2 to 3 receiver in the league in DeAndre Hopkins.
Yep. David Johnson might be able to do something with them, but
I'm not a believer. He got his job taken by Kenyon Drake.
in all fairness,
he's also
Kenyon
injury
Drake
prone
looked
too.
really good.
And he did. But David Johnson hasn't been able to stay on the field. So who are
Yeah.
they going to count on? They lost Carlos Hyde, who ran for over 1,000 yards for him last year.
Basically, I'm
You're
banking
putting all
on
your
9
chips on
wins
Deshaun
because
Watson.
of Deshaun Watson.
Yes.
Correct.
And I love Deshaun Watson. I think he's one of the best 6 or 7 quarterbacks in the entire league. I really do. But you can't do everything by yourself. And I don't think he's Russell Wilson, where he can will his team. I don't think he's that good. I do think he's a extremely talented player. But have you seen their schedule, man? Their schedule is tough. To start,
I can tell you. If
I'm just
going
to tell you their first 4 games at the Chiefs, versus the
Yep.
Ravens, at the Steelers, home against the Vikings. I mean, there's a chance they lose all 4 of those games because all 4 of those teams are arguably better than the Texans.
I have them starting 1-3 in that stretch, but then I have them
As do
finishing
I.
the season pretty well.
Yeah, I mean they get a little bit of a break. They get the Jags. I mean, I think the Titans are going to be pretty tough, and they go at the Titans and then Packers at home, and then they get their bye. So 6 out of their first 7 games are against pretty damn good teams, especially opposed to what last year says. So on top of them having a first place schedule, I do not like their defense. They got a lot of injury-prone guys. Their secondary is absolutely atrocious. If their offensive line can stay healthy, it's been better. But I agree with you. I don't think Bill O'Brien's a bad coach. I just think he's an absolute horrific GM, and he is wasting Deshaun Watson's early years.
We know this all too well.
Exactly. And I've seen it happen, and not just with the Colts. I mean, you take example the Packers. The Packers have wasted a lot of Aaron Rodgers' career because they refused to spend money in free agency. And it's not that the Texans have refused. They've just given up all their picks. They're not been able to build through the draft. They just don't make smart free agent acquisitions. And I think it's going to cost them this year. And it may cost Bill O'Brien his job as head coach and GM. But again, like I said, I don't think he's a terrible head coach. I just do not believe in the Texans at all, and I don't even have them going 500. Man, I can't. I think the Colts and the Titans are better teams than the Texans in this division. I do.
Okay, let's go to the Titans, who won 9 games last year and also made the playoffs.
Yes, their over under is set at 8.5. I'm gonna say you took the under at 8, Jay,
I did take the under at 8
because
I had them going
you're not
8-8.
a biggest fan of the Titans as I am.
Yeah, and I figure you have them. You took the over at 9-7.
I actually took the over at 11-5.
Holy shit! So
I
you
think they're
are
good, man.
on the train.
I am all in on Tannehill and Derrick Henry and what Mike Vrabel's doing down there.
Okay,
I'm all in, Jay. I think they're a really good team.
I think they're a good team. I just don't think they're as good as everybody else thinks. They brought in some Vic Beasley, who has been basically a bust in Atlanta. Jonathan Joseph, who's probably approaching his 50th birthday. And they paid Dennis Kelly a bunch of money, who is really he's definitely, in my opinion, a downgrade from Jack Conklin, who they lost.
I would agree with that. But I think they like him better at that number than what Jack Conklin got from Cleveland.
Maybe. But that would still make them a better team. I don't give a fuck what they like in the number-wise.
That's debatable, yeah.
To me, I think Derrick Henry's kind of unhappy. I think Ryan Tannehill played out of his mind last year, and he's been injury-prone in the past. So he didn't get hurt last year, but you're banking on him not getting hurt again, and your backup is Logan Woodside. Like, I don't see that as being very viable. I think they had a ton of losses in free agency, especially on the defensive side. They lost Jarrell Casey
I
for
was not a
basically
fan of
nothing.
that. I think they basically just gave him away for nothing. We've talked about that before.
Yeah. Wesley Woodyard, Logan Ryan, Cameron Wake, Kamala Correa. I know he's not great, but he was another depth body blitzing the quarterback.
Mhm.
They lost Deion Lewis, Delaney Walker, Jack Conklin, a decent backup in Marcus Mariota. So for what they did this offseason, I was not a fan. I don't think Derrick Henry or the team as a whole will look as dominant this year. I still think it's a good team, but they're in a decent division, and I'm just not seeing this 10, 11 wins. And I mean, Vegas kind of has my back. A lot of people like what the Titans are, and they believe in the Titans. And Vegas has them at 8.5.
Mhm.
So that number right there should be like, okay, what am I seeing or what am I missing?
I'm actually a fan of the way their schedule lays out too, because yeah, like you mentioned, they made the playoffs last year, but they weren't the division winner, so they don't have that first place schedule. So they don't have as tough as road as the Texans do. And like I said, I think they're a better team than the Texans. I really I like AJ Brown. I think that dude is a stud. And I mean, you mentioned Delaney Walker, losing him. I mean, he's been out basically the past 2 seasons. He's just been on IR for a long time, hasn't played much. If Derrick Henry is pissed off and he wants his money, then he'll go out and prove it. I don't see him holding out. He's going to make a lot of money on that franchise tag. And if he wants more money, he's just going to have to ball out again. And I mean, he's one of the most dominant ball carriers when he's actually playing. And when they brought in Tannehill last year, it just rejuvenated their whole squad because they could actually throw the ball past 15 yards when Mariota.
They gave him so much money.
They did give him a lot of money. And like I said, he probably wasn't worth all that money. But there's a very select few quarterbacks who are, Jay, and you know that. But
Yeah.
that's just the market for what he did last year. I mean, they made it all the way to the AFC title game after starting, 2-4? That's incredible.
Yeah, well, I see them having another start like that this year. I think I had them starting like 1-5.
I mean, they start at Denver, then they get Jacksonville
1-4.
home.
I'm sorry.
They go to Minnesota, then they get 3 straight home games: the Steelers, Bills, and Texans. Those are all 3. I'm not that big on the Texans, but they're an above-average ball club, and the Steelers and the Bills are. If Big Ben's who he used to be, the Steelers are going to be tough this year. But I just
think
like
teams are going to take away the run game this year on them.
They tried last year.
I
there
know,
was
but I
games
think
where
they're going to
Tannehill
find
had
out a
over
way.
400 yards passing.
Yeah, there were also games where he had like 98.
Yeah, that was in the playoffs, and they didn't need him.
Even worse.
They didn't need him though.
That's what I'm saying.
No one was
I
criticizing
believe
Jimmy.
they're going to need
There
him
weren't
this
really that
year.
many people criticizing Jimmy Garoppolo, and he was doing the same thing when in the NFC. You didn't hear much flack for him.
I just don't see Derrick Henry carrying last year's season over the. He in my eyes, he has to take a step back. What he did last year was unbelievable.
I don't know.
I mean, the
Seen
dude
that
averaged like 150 yards in the playoffs a game.
Yeah, that's just a big man running at you.
I know.
4.5 speed, man. That's. I mean, you saw what he did to Earl Thomas. You saw what he did to everybody. I want to just throw Earl Thomas shade out there, but I mean, he did it to a lot of people. All right.
Well, we're 0 for 2 on the first 2 teams. I took the over with Houston. You took the under. I took the under with Tennessee. You took the over.
Yep. Colts.
Let's go to Indy.
Our
They won
squad,
7
Jay.
games last year.
Yep. Their over-under is set at 9. I'm going to say you took the over.
I'm going to say you took the over.
I did.
I'm going to say you took the over at 10.
I did.
What did I take the over at?
11.
I did. I had them at 11 and 5.
I almost there. I could have. There was a part of me that wanted to go 11 and 5, but I also still have a little bit of skeptics towards Phillip Rivers. I am not 100% sold still on him being what he used to be based off of what we saw last year. I really like the talent of this team. I think they definitely got better in the draft. I mean, you saw it added Jonathan Taylor. They finally got somebody else who's a big body receiver in Michael Pittman Jr. If Paris Campbell comes back healthy, I think he's going to be a huge weapon in that offense. You still got T.Y. Hilton. I think it's the best offensive line in the league, and I don't even think that's a bias from me. I just think their offensive line is very, very good. Their pass rush that's probably the weakest part, but they've got a lot of guys. They got a lot of bodies on the defensive line. You still got Darius Leonard and Kenny Moore, and they didn't pick up Malik Hooker's 5th-year option. So if he's playing for a contract, you may see his best season yet if he can stay healthy.
Okay. I have him at 11 wins because I am a believer in Phillip Rivers. Before he even came to the Colts, you can back me on this. I was mentioning him as somebody I would want the Colts to pick up because I still think he had some left in the tank. I think he's a pocket quarterback. He doesn't have much mobility, so when you're playing behind the offensive line like the Chargers had, he had no time to get rid of the ball. He needs an offensive line with the style that he plays, and I think he's finally going to get that in Indy. And I also think they're not going to ask him to do everything in the offense. The Colts are gonna rely a lot on their run game, which they already had a 1,000-yard rusher last year in Marlon Mack, and then they go add a 2,000-yard rusher in Jonathan Taylor out of college who averaged 2,000 yards for all 3 years he was at Wisconsin. So
Pretty incredible.
he's decorated coming in, so they immediately help out the offense by adding Jonathan Taylor. You mentioned it earlier. I think Paris Campbell's the forgotten one because everybody, including myself, saw how down the Colts receiving core was last year. Well, they spent a high draft pick on Paris Campbell last year, and he didn't really play at all. So they spent a high draft pick on a wide receiver this year. They get their high draft pick wide receiver back from last year and T.Y. Hilton back. That's not a bad trio at wide receiver. And DeForest Buckner, that addition, I think, is being overlooked so much because of Phillip Rivers coming in as a quarterback. So last year, Andrew Luck retired right before the season began, and an average to slightly maybe above average quarterback in Jacoby Brissett, who also missed some time and wasn't healthy in the second half of the season, still managed to win 7 games, all while Adam Vinatieri single-handedly lost them 3 or 4. I think they upgraded at quarterback. I think they upgraded at defensive tackle, which in our offensive scheme, well, and really any offensive scheme, and our defensive scheme are the two biggest key parts of the offense and defense, and we really, truly did not have very many departures. Let me just name the guys that the Colts lost. Brian Hoyer, Devin Funches, Dontrell Inman, Chester Rogers, Joe Haig, Marcus Hunt, Jabal Sheard. Like, how many of these guys were just big contributors to the team last year?
If you're not a Colts fan and they didn't play for maybe one of your former teams, you probably don't even know who they are.
Exactly. So I don't really think they lost anybody, and they brought in Phillip Rivers, DeForest Buckner, a Pro Bowl cornerback, even though he had a down year last year, and Xavier Rhodes, Trey Burton, who was with Frank Reich in Philly, who's known for the Philly special, and I believe they had a pretty decent draft. So I just think the Colts got better as a team, and what they were able to do last year with average quarterback play, losing your starting quarterback right before the season starts, bad kicking game, a bunch of things going wrong, and they still managed to win 7 games. I mean,
at one point they were 5-2, and they had impressive wins in Kansas City. I mean, they went to Tennessee and beat the Titans. I know it was when Mariota was starting, but I mean, I like I said, I have them at 10 wins, and it could possibly be more because again, the Colts do have the easiest schedule based off of win percentage from last year. This year they do, so that obviously will help a lot. And they get a lot of their tough opponents at home. They get the Ravens at home. They get the Packers at home. They get the Vikings at home. So they've got a pretty favorable schedule, and it's in a dome. That can only help Rivers too. And I agree with you, Jay. We talked about it, I think, when they made the trade, how DeForest Buckner is just going to be he's like a new shiny toy for Matt Eberflus, the Colts defensive coordinator. I mean, you saw what he did in San Francisco. You saw how dominant that defensive line was. He was a huge part of it. Even the coaching staff and everyone in San Francisco was like, we would have loved to have had him, but we just had to pay so many other guys that they just prioritized some other people over him.
Yeah, and Vegas, with their over-unders, predicts the Colts to win this division, and it's not too often that a team wins a division at 9-7. Your division winner usually wins 10 or 11 games, is what I'm saying. So I don't think I'm far off with having the Colts at 11-5.
Yeah, I mean, I've got them one up at 10. So
yeah.
All right. Last but
there's
not least,
much to say about the Jags, man.
Jacksonville. I believe they have the lowest over/under of any team in the league at 4.5. I'm going to say you took the under.
The Bengals are even at 5.5. Yeah, I took the under. I think they're flat out bad, and I think they're just going to tank to get the quarterback next year.
Yeah, I You don't even have to. I'm sure you know that I took the under as well. There's no
Yeah.
fucking way they're winning 5 games this year.
No.
Absolutely no chance. I looked at their schedule. They may win 1 or 2.
I have them at 2-14.
I have them. I also have them at 2-14. They're just bad. I do think they also want to lose. They want to go get one of those quarterbacks, whether it's Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence, whoever they think is their guy. The kid from North Dakota State, I can't think of his name right now, but whoever they think is their guy, that's what they want to go get, because that's, like you said, Jay.
What's his name? Trey something, I think.
Yeah, they. I mean, is it Lance or Trey
Yes.
Lance? Yeah.
Yep, that's it.
And I mean, they have not hit on the quarterback position. I mean, they drafted Blake Bortles 3rd overall. They paid Nick Foles all that money. They've had to shell out these guys and just paid massive amounts of cap penalty just to get rid of those 2 guys. So if that doesn't tell you anything, they've just struggled to find their quarterback. And that's what, if you're a franchise and you don't have a good quarterback, I mean, you're going to struggle. And so until they get that guy, they're just going to struggle. So I think they're just going to flat out suck.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're telling you without saying what they're planning on doing this year. They won 6 games last year. Minshew is not the answer. I think that's clear from last year. I think he can win you a couple games as a backup when he needs to come in, but he's not the guy. They know he's not the guy, and yet they still didn't go out and draft a quarterback. They didn't bring in – Cam Newton's still sitting out there. They didn't go after any of the big-time free agent quarterbacks. So, and they get rid of Nick Foles. So what does that tell you? Either they are super in love with Gardner Minshew and stand behind him.
I don't believe
it. Or is it more likely that they know he's not the guy, let's not win these games and go get our quarterback next year? Yeah. And they might lose probably the best player on their entire team in Yannick Ngakoue.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they just traded Jalen Ramsey. And so, yeah, I mean, they're kind of a mess.
They are.
They're a situation with Yannick Ngakoue. I mean, if they can get some good draft capital out of that, they need to, because he doesn't want to be there. Him and one of the part owners were arguing on Twitter about shit. They just need to cut ties with this guy. Just trade him.
It doesn't make sense. So you're going to lose him after this year.
Yeah.
He wants out of there. You're not going to win the Super Bowl. Get something for him so you can start rebuilding your team.
Yeah, agreed. So, all right. Enough with the AFC South. Let's move to the North. Let's start with
But just to recap, you had
okay.
Tennessee winning the division, Colts right under them, Texans under them, and Jacksonville finishing 4th, right?
Yes, sir.
And I had the Colts winning the division.
Texans, Titans, Jags.
Correct. Okay. All right.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to those Ravens in the North, who are coming off a 14-win season. Their over-under is set at 11.5. Jay, I'm going to say you took the over.
I did take the over. What do you think I had him at?
12-4.
You're good, man. I think you did the same thing.
I actually one-upped them at 13-3.
Really?
Yes.
I'm not mad at that. I just don't think they can repeat what they did last year at 14-2.
That's one less game. I really like their roster. I became a believer in Lamar Jackson. He proved me wrong in the regular season. I mean, I know he had a bad playoff game, but I mean, it happens. I mean, I don't think – I'm not comparing him to Peyton Manning, but I don't think Peyton Manning won until his 4th or 5th playoff start. So I just think they're built so well to win in the regular season, because they have such a good offense that just hits you in so many different ways. You have so many running backs to take the load off. They added J.K. Dobbins in there. Their offensive lines are as mammoths of men there. And Lamar Jackson, if he got at least a little bit better, that's scary, because the guy was the MVP last year and they won 14 games. I think their defense got better, bringing in Patrick Queen to fill that middle linebacker role. They maybe have the best secondary in all of football. So there's just not a lot of weaknesses on this team. That's why I have them at 13-3, because they're just flat out really good.
Yeah, they are really good, and they bring in a guy like Calais Campbell to an already dominant defense.
Yeah.
I just don't see 14-2 as repeatable, because I think all 3 teams in the division got better. So the Ravens might still be just as good as last year, but I don't think the record's going to show it based off Pittsburgh got better, Cleveland got better, and Cincy got better, all in my eyes.
I agree with that.
I still think they're one of, if not the best teams in all of football, and maybe have the best roster. I think they also might have had the best draft out of all 32 teams. So I think they're destined for success if Lamar Jackson can stay healthy, but 14 wins is just too I don't
mean,
know
you
if
still
I've
got
ever
them at
predicted a
12.
team
I mean,
with
that's
14
probably going to
wins.
be one of
Yeah.
if they do end up winning 12 games, that'll be one of the highest win totals in all of the
Yep.
all of the
And I'm still
football.
taking the
So,
over.
yeah. I mean, them and the Chiefs both have the two highest over-unders of any team in the NFL.
The only thing that makes me question it is Lamar Jackson makes his bread and butter off of running the football, and he's not 250 pounds like
No,
Cam Newton.
I mean, I
So
know but I think every quarterback's just one play away. Obviously, I mean, if your starting quarterback goes out, that's tough for anyone. I know,
agreed,
I
but he
get what you're
puts himself in
saying.
that position more than any
Just the
quarterback in the
way he
league.
plays, yeah, I get it. But I mean, he took
I
all
still
that.
got him at 12-4.
He took a lot of those hits last year, and I mean, he just bounced right back up. I don't know
I
if you
do think
saw.
he's pretty damn good at avoiding big
I don't
hits
know
as
if you
well.
saw the video. He got tackled into a jet ski on the beach a couple
I
days
saw
ago.
that.
I bet the Ravens called him immediately and said, "You can't play on the beach anymore. We need you, man."
Yeah, you're done.
Oh shit! All right, you want to go to Pittsburgh next? I think they finished second in the division last
They
year
did.
at
They were at 8-8.
and their over under is set at 9.5. They should be getting a healthy Big Ben back. From what he's said, is he feels healthier than ever. I've seen a few pictures of him. He looks a little thinner. He looks slimmed down. So maybe that'll help. Maybe he took his offseason training program a little more serious than he has in the past. But we'll see how that elbow heals at I think he's 38 or 39. I know he's one of the older quarterbacks still left in the league. He's taken a lot of hits over his years. That being said, Jay, I think you took the over.
I did.
At 10-6?
Have him at 11-5.
Okay. All right.
I think you took the over at 10-6.
I also went 11-5.
Okay, so we're on the same page.
Yes.
Wow. So we both have the Ravens winning 12 and 13 games, and then the Steelers falling right behind them at 11-5.
Yep. I think the Steelers are just a really good team. Their defense,
I do
may be
too.
the
I think
best
they
in the
might have
league.
the best. Yeah, I think they do have the best defense in the league.
Yeah. I mean,
it's elite.
It is at all three levels.
Look at this. So I have the points for and points against last year. So the Ravens were the highest scoring team in the league, I do believe. They put up 531 points, went 14-2, and only allowed 282 points. The Steelers still went 8-8 with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph, and they only put up 289 points on offense.
Yeah.
If I'm doing the math right, what's 290 and 290 is 580.
Yep.
So they were almost half of the points for of the Baltimore Ravens and still only allowed 20 more points the whole season.
Yeah. Their defense kept them in every single game.
If the Steelers offense or if the Steelers defense would have had the Ravens offense, they'd have easily been the best statistical defense in all of football.
I mean, that may have been one of the greatest teams of all time.
Yeah.
I mean,
so,
my God.
They just could not move the ball, and they put their defense in bad spots over and over, and their defense still, to me, single-handedly had them at an 8-8 record.
It willed them to 8 wins because their quarterback play was absolutely atrocious. I mean, it was terrible. Mike Tomlin may have done his best coaching job yet. Like we talked about their defense being elite at every single level. If Big Ben comes back and is 85% of what he used to be, that's really scary offense too.
Yeah,
because you still got Juju Smith-Schuster, who I think is going to be out to prove something. Same thing with James Conner, because both of those guys were injured last year. So I think they're both coming to play. I really do. They still have one of the better offensive lines in the league. And you got Big Ben at the helm. I mean, he's still...
They added Steven Wisniewski to that line, too.
I think Big Ben's probably at 10 to 15 range-ish.
I don't think you can knock him out of at least the top half of the quarterbacks until you see him physically decline.
Unless he just absolutely is done and falls off a cliff this year, I can't say it because you haven't seen it when healthy.
Exactly. And then they added a big body in Chase Claypool at wide receiver and a guy I liked a lot in Anthony McFarland, the running back out of Maryland. So,
yeah, you do fiend for him.
I think it's going to be a pretty decent little squad this year, and
I like
a scary
the
team
and
that
last
nobody
year, I
will
thought
want
the
to see.
Steelers were going to be, and I think they would have had Ben stayed healthy because we just talked about how good their defense was. If they had even decent quarterback play, they'd have been a really fucking good team.
I can guarantee you Baltimore wouldn't have went 14-2 last year.
I would agree with that because they still almost beat Baltimore with Mason Rudolph. If Juju Smith-Schuster didn't fumble at the end of the game, they probably would have won in Pittsburgh that year or last year. But
I mean, you were both pretty high on the Steelers.
Yeah, we were. They were one of my I guess you could call them sleeper picks last year, but I think they're going to be good this year. Anyways, let's move on to the Browns. Cleveland, 8.5 over under. I think they won 6 games last year.
They went 6-10 last year.
That's what I thought. I think they lost their last 4 or 5 games to finish the season.
They ended on a pretty bad note.
Yes, they did, because I still remember this alert when I got it. If they plan on keeping Freddie Kitchens next year, unless something catastrophic happens, and something catastrophic did happen, they lost their last 4 games and he was fired.
Yep, which for the better in my mind.
I agree. They brought in Kevin Stefanski from Minnesota to run the helm. They've also brought in Jack Conklin. They signed Austin Hooper. They're in talks to give Myles Garrett a huge extension. He, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, did get reinstated, so he'll be back for that defense. Their draft, they brought in Jedrick Wills to play left tackle, so they're trying to shore up that offensive line and protect Baker, because you have to. I'm going to say you took the under, though, Jay.
I took the over at 9-7.
Ooh, okay. You're throwing wins
I
left
think
and
you
right
took
at people, man.
the under at 7-9.
I did take the under, but at 8-8.
Okay.
I think they improved by 2 games. I think they got a little bit better. Still not great. And I got to see Baker prove it in that scheme. I think it'll take him a little while to kind of get used to it, to having to relinquish a little bit of what he's used to doing about throwing the ball all over the yard, because they're going to turn into a zone run scheme, which they've got the legs to do it in the backfield with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So if they can run the ball behind that offensive line, if it's improved, I think they can improve 2 games, but I still don't love their team. I like it, but I don't love it.
I would say I like it, but don't love it as well. I do think they added talent to the offensive line. And to me, it's just time for Baker to put up or shut up.
Agreed.
I think Vegas has them at 8.5 wins, so I'm not far off with 9. They have all the talent in the world, and I believe they finally have a coach I trust to put all the talent together. And their run game is about to be scary good, I think.
I agree.
Which should take some heat off of Baker Mayfield. So, yeah, he might be learning a new system, but in a new system, the easiest part to learn is the run game. And when you got a good run game, it's going to help him in all facets. And I believe Baker's at his best in play action. So all in all, I think the Browns are on the uprise, 9-7. I mean, it's not like I have them going 13-3, but I think they're a good enough team. I thought they were going to win 9 games last year, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So
I
think Freddie Kitchens is a big part of that. I just don't think he was ready. I don't think he had the team ready each week, and I don't think his game plans were that sufficient.
I'm just a little skeptical of their defense, because I know they have talent, but they're extremely young in the secondary and at linebacker. They've got Mack Wilson at linebacker because they lost Kirksey and Joe Schobert. They drafted Grant Delpit, and they have Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward in the secondary. Those are all second, third, or rookies in the secondary who are your best players. I mean, they lost Sheldon Richardson on the defensive line. Olivier Vernon wasn't very good last year, so that's where I think they're going to struggle, is defensively. But I do think they'll be able to protect Baker a lot more, and I'm with you, Jay. I think Stefanski can lead them in the right directions offensively. They just now need to work on rebuilding that defense. And I mean, they've got some, like I said, they've got good, solid players, but they're just really young.
Yeah, I mean, I was only a game above you, so it's not like we're that far ahead of each other.
No, and I'm just saying,
I think we have a pretty.
Steelers are better right now.
Yeah.
I think they've got a better quarterback. I think they've just got a better flat-out team than the Browns. So, but hey, I mean, and they'll throw a party in Cleveland if they go 8-8, 9-7. I mean,
no shit.
Come on, what they've done previously. So that'll be a win for them, just flat out. Okay, Bengals Let's finish out the AFC North with the Bengals. They went 2 games last year, Jay?
Yep, 2-14.
They had the number 1 overall pick, and Joey Burrow, Heisman national champ, one of the greatest college football seasons I've ever seen in my lifetime. They're over under set of 5.5. I'm going to say you took the under at 4.
You're on a fucking roll. I did take the under at 4. I have them at 4-12. I'm going to say you took the under at 3.
I took the under at 4 as well.
Oh, nice.
I think that seems right for them. 4 wins. I think they improved. They've got a lot. They're really young. They've got a lot to learn. Still a little skeptical on their head coach, Zach Taylor. But hey, I mean, if he's got a lot of nice pieces on offense. I like Joe Mixon. I like Burrow. I like who's the kid they drafted out of T.
T.
Higgins from
Higgins.
Clemson. If AJ Green is healthy at all, he's still a very good player. Their offensive line's got some work, but
Hey, they get basically another first-round pick back in Jonah Williams.
agreed. Their defense is hot garbage, pretty much.
Yeah,
but
it's not that great.
it's not great. So 4 wins. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, and I think people need to remember they have their franchise quarterback, but they were picking first overall for a reason. They just weren't that good and only won 2 games last year. And you can't expect a rookie to come in and just dominate the league, especially when the talent around him isn't great.
And I mean, he's also in an extremely tough division.
Yeah.
With
on top of that, I had all 3 teams finishing over 9
with a winning record.
Yeah. So
that's
that's
a
going to
good
be
division.
tough.
It's a tough place to play in Cincy because you don't really have much support from ownership. So we'll see.
I was actually surprised that the Bengals over under was 5.5. I think that's one that I would hammer the under.
Yeah, I would.
That'd be one of my better picks of all 32.
I agree. I think they might just be a little. I mean, you got 11-5 for the Ravens. You got 9-5 or 9.5 for the Steelers and 8.5 for the Browns. I mean, every single team Vegas has is over 500.
Yeah, they at least believe they're all above average.
Yeah, so I mean, I was a little surprised the Bengals was that high. I figured they might be tied with the Jags at 4.5. You don't really see many teams go under 5, so the Jags they just think are really damn bad.
It'll be interesting. I think I might put some money down on the Bengals under.
Yeah, I think you could, Jay.
Yeah.
All right, I do want to ask you this before we finish those 2 divisions. What is your gut feeling on the NFL season happening? Because I think it was today that Dr. Fauci doesn't believe that the NFL can happen unless they do a bubble like the NFL or the NBA does.
I think there's 0 chance it doesn't happen. There's no way the NFL is going to let that happen. They're the biggest thing on every TV network. They're the biggest show. They're the biggest moneymaker. They're the biggest thing in America. They're not going to not allow it to happen.
What is your feeling about fans being in the stands?
Now, that's a whole different ball game. To me, I'm ready to open the country back up. It seems like everybody else is. I think people are way more aware of what social distancing can do and be helpful for you. And I think people are more aware of washing your hands more and being more, I don't know, just better at your cleanliness, really, your hygiene, because that's the biggest way to spread it. And I think it's more aware, but you see the UFC's putting back on events. Now, it's just tricky with fans because I'm sure there's going to be some legal things you got to go through. And me as a fan, I would go there tomorrow to watch a game and have a fan right next to me that I don't know. I'll take more. I'll take more precautions. I'll take the hand sanitizer with me to the stadium. I'll be using it a lot. I'll be keeping my distance a little bit, but I'll still be enjoying the game. You can't live in fear to me. I think we've seen that this isn't as bad as it initially looked, and I don't know. Maybe I'm just rambling here, but as a fan, I want the NFL back. I would go to a game and feel comfortable going to a game, and I just don't see the NFL as big of an entity as it is in game happen.
I'm with you. I think that as everything that you've heard and seen, the NFL plans on having fans. They plan on basically acting as normal when the season starts back up in September. I guess I'm talking regular season starts in September. I mean, there are not too many people that give a shit about the preseason, but I mean, I personally would feel comfortable going to a game and sit next to a random person that I don't know. Now, that's not saying that everybody would feel that way, but I do think across the country there are a lot of people that would want to go to a football game. I really do.
I think people are just over this and want sports back and feel like they need sports back.
And I know we've seen increased cases in some states that have opened. I think that's going to happen. But, I mean, I'm not sure, man. I think it's weird. I don't know if they're going to do fans or what they're going to do. But, I mean, you see these teams. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott's the biggest name we heard that got COVID-19 when they were reported to the Cowboys facility, and a few unnamed Texans players got it. Kareem Jackson from the Broncos has it. I think you've seen some guys on Alabama's football team. Clemson, I think, just got reported they have like 28 cases from their team. So we'll see what the precautions are and measures and how they do this thing. I'm glad I don't have to make those decisions.
Agreed.
I just wanted to get your thoughts on that because
I just think it's happening.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just wishing, but
I think I think it's good for the NFL's sake that the NBA is doing something before. So the fact that the NBA is going to do this bubble in Orlando, it seems like it's going to happen officially. Maybe the NFL can learn some things.
And the UFC.
From this.
I know it's a totally different sport, but you can contact these different sports that are finally doing something and learn from their mistakes and work that into your routine and how you're going to manage your sport.
Yeah, you will. You'll see it. So, yeah, those are just our little 2 cents in on that. But, Jay, if you don't have anything else, man, we can get out of here.
Until next time.
Until next time.